Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Friday, November 28th, 2025. And I've got the awesome C. Scott Brown here of Android Authority. Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm so glad you're back on the show. And now you have a studio. Like, remember, like back in the day when the first time I had it, I don't think I was even doing video. And now you're both like, we're both video people, kind of. I mean, you're doing way better than I am, to be frank. But congrats, by the way, on the whole YouTube thing. It's pretty great.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a wild ride. I didn't expect it to get my channel to get as popular as it has so quickly. You know, like I had a whole plan. I was like, oh, I'm going to ramp up slowly. I'm going to have this video and then this video, and then I'm going to do all this stuff, and it just happened so quickly. So it's been a whirlwind.
Well, you know, I knew of you, and I finally got to chat with you and get to know you better on that trip to Samsung in Korea a couple of years back or 3 years ago. And I thought to myself, yeah, when you did the YouTube, I was like, yeah, you're the right person for that. You're opinionated. You have great ideas. You have, a good voice, like in terms of like your thoughts, and they're very articulate. So I think it was perfect. And so I'm not surprised. And so I'm glad to have you back on the show. There's a whole bunch of news that's a bit quiet for us in North America, especially in the US. It's a holiday this week, but the Chinese aren't stopping, so they have great phones because all the chips came out not too long ago. So yeah, so we have a new Poco F8 Ultra. I want to briefly touch on that. I have it here for the folks watching on Patreon. You're going to get a little demo of this phone. Well, not a demo, but a quick walk around. If you are wondering about the Patreon, there's a video version of this podcast. You can get it a day in advance for $5 a month, and it comes out every week. So please consider subscribing and supporting me that way. So also, you did a video on, this is really interesting to me because you're a big Pixel person. I'm a Pixel 10 Pro XL user as my main. I know you have a regular Pixel 10 Pro, but you generally like the smaller phone from what I remember. So I assume that's still the case.
Yes.
But, as much as I love my Pixel, every time I play with a Snapdragon Android phone that's worth any, salt, it's like, oh my God, like I want that hardware in the Pixel experience, right? With the Pixel experience. And so I haven't watched your video, and I want you to kind of walk us through your reasoning. The title is, could you tell the audience really quick what it was?
Dear Google, steal the OnePlus 15.
That's what it was. See, so that was like, that got my attention. So let's talk about that as well for a little bit. Then there's a bunch of Chinese phone announcements coming up. There's a bit more information on this OnePlus 15R that's supposedly coming our way at some point. So thoughts on this Poco? Well, listen, the Poco is interesting because it's a flagship that costs, it's not sold in North America, right? But it costs about $730 starting point. So about the same as like a Red Magic 11 Pro. But unlike the Red Magic, it has real cameras, not like potato cameras, because I'm reviewing the Red Magic 11 Pro right now. And 2 years ago, I did the 9 Pro, then I played with the 10 Pro, but I didn't actually review it. And the cameras were, 2 years ago, made a big leap. Like, it's a gaming phone, don't expect too much. But they were really bad for a long time, the cameras on Red Magic. Like, you would buy the Red Magic to play games, and that was it. Like, if you wanted to replace a flagship, you better have an iPhone or something in your other pocket. But the 9, I was like, okay, it's at parity with some like mid-range phones. It's fine. The 10 was about the same. The 11 is about the same, but we've gotten so much better now on the flagships and the mid-rangers. And I was like, no, this is bad. So the same price as a Red Magic. It's not a gaming phone, but it has real cameras, and it's a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. So that's the part that's interesting, right? Like, obviously, this thing is gonna kick butt when you start basically benchmarking or whatever, or running games. And thermals, of course, are the big, remember the OnePlus 15 and thermals? You had the issues too. I reached out to OnePlus. I reached out to Qualcomm. I read your review. I know mine was like fraught with a lot of head scratching. By the way, Red Magic 11 Pro also has some thermal issues. I had less issues with the Realme GT8 Pro though. So that seems to be a bit more optimized in terms of thermals.
Well, that's got a liquid cooler in it, so right?
Well, the Red Magic does, but I'm
The Red
talking
Magic
about
does, yeah,
the
yeah.
Realme doesn't. The Realme is just like
Yeah.
essentially a OnePlus because it's the same company. So somehow,
Yeah, but I think the numbers were down. Like the benchmarking was a little bit
it
lower.
throttled
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
But that
Yeah, it
was good
throttled more.
because that's what it's supposed to do. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
it's not supposed to turn into a freaking raging brick in your hand of fire, right? Like that's what it was doing. So this thing, I haven't tested it. Let's find out what happens. It's not too
Yeah.
thick. It's 6,500 milliamp hour battery. It has wired and wireless charging. I think it's like 100 watt and 50 watt or something. It's definitely a flagship. And for Poco, this is not very common. Like they always kind of put a bit of a damper versus the Xiaomi and the Redmi phones. Like they always get something a little detuned. Kind of think OnePlus 15 versus Oppo Find X9 Pro, right? The Find X9 Pro is Oppo's keeping it to themselves. Xiaomi's keeping it to themselves. They don't give Poco the best stuff. It's kind of the same thing. So this phone, here, I'm going to just unlock it so you can have a quick look. It's, the same as usual. Big screen, it's not a TPO, but it's like 1.5K, super bright AMOLED, 120 hertz, I think. So it has, as you can probably see through the lenses here, one of those is rectangle. It's a 5x telephoto, triple 50 megapixel system, pretty big main sensor, 50 megapixels ultra wide. But that thing under my middle finger here is the pièce de résistance. It's a Bose branded subwoofer or 0.1 channel, like, stereo speakers on each end, plus that little guy in the back that supposedly is adding bass to the whole story. I haven't tested it yet. I just got the phone yesterday, so please bear with me. But yeah, look, it's thin-ish. It is, very iPhone-like in design. A lot of Chinese phones are like that. I kind of regret that in a way, because I liked when they had weird, designs. But, it's got a power button, volume key on the, the usual ports and SIM trays down there and, top speaker. And yeah, this is unfortunately not the denim one. They have a denim kind of back panel one, which, it's, I don't know if it's real fabric or some kind of synthetic thing, but it's, this is just black. And this is actually not glass. The metal frame, though, aluminum, but this back here is made of some sort of like resin. So it's actually impact resistant, which is cool. And, a lot of people are like, ooh, plateau iPhone, like, no. Poco's been doing that for years. Like they've had the plateau, the thing that takes up the whole width of the back of the phone for their camera pod for a really long time. In this case, they're actually using it for the subwoofer thing. But in the past, it was always just cosmetic. And if it wasn't like 3D, it was implied by some kind of like graphic or something that there was like they invented the rectangle pod thing that the iPhone and is using. It's kind of interesting to me. When I saw the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I was like, oh, Poco. Okay. I mean, it's way more pronounced on the iPhone and on the big Xiaomi 17 Pro Max as well.
And Apple branded it with the plateau.
Yeah, which is such a ridiculous word. But as you can see, it's not too pronounced here. So I think this phone, is going to be around the same level of performance as a OnePlus 15 overall. Like the whole, well-rounded, does everything right. The cameras are going to be fine. They're not going to be outstanding. They're not going to be, Pixel or iPhone or Oppo Find X9 Pro, right?
Right. Well, you're also spending $500.
Yeah, but we're spending way less. And I think if you're looking at spending, if you're importing phones, I mean, well, the Red Magic 11 Pro is available officially in the US, so you get support, quote unquote support. Whatever, you get something. If you're looking for something way more well-rounded and you're not just a gamer and you want the most affordable 8 Elite, Gen 5 you can get by importing from a legit source that should be really easy to import because this is sold in Europe and stuff, you should be able to buy this phone. And again, band support, you probably won't get 600 megahertz on T-Mobile, depending on your market. That might matter, but everything else should just work. I mean, my experience with Chinese phones is I don't get a Chinese phone anymore now that doesn't work on AT&T and T-Mobile without any issues. They all have VoLTE and everything that you need. We'll see, but I like this thing. I mean, the software is the only thing in Xiaomi land that you just played with OnePlus 15. I like Oxygen OS and Color OS and Realme UI. They're all pretty much the same. I feel that They have a personality, but it doesn't stray too far. I mean, it's starting to stray a bit further now because they're trying to all copy the iPhone again. Have you
Yeah.
noticed this? And I want to know your thoughts on this. Chinese phones, they used to copy iOS, right? A lot, like 10 years ago. And like it was just copycat. And then they started creating their own personality and being more like a Pixel, like more like a stock Android experience. And now they're swinging back. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially on the OnePlus 15 and Oxygen OS and Color OS, it's like, just the split notification drop down, the icons, the liquid glass elements. I don't know if you noticed when you first unlock the OnePlus 15. You enter in your passcode on. They're literally liquid glass buttons, like all that stuff. They just keep borrowing from iOS, and I think it's just a China thing because the Chinese market, that's what they want. They want that iPhone experience.
It's swinging. Like it was so terrible back in the day. I remember like Xiaomi was the worst offender, and they're the worst offender still. And that's why I'm this brought this up in my head is that I'm going to regret what I said about liking this phone after literally touching it for half an hour, because I literally got out of the box last night, set it up this morning, and didn't do anything else. So the software is, HyperOS. And since HyperOS, like when they switch over from MIUI to HyperOS, it's just a branding exercise. The UI didn't really change that drastically, but one of the things that they became more iOS like. The first thing they did is, how Android now lets you do the iPhone thing with like pulling from the top left or the top right.
Yeah, the split notifications.
The split thing. Okay. They made that the default and you can't undo it. That's the first thing they did. At least on Pixel, on the Oppo ecosystem, you can undo that still. Like I'm dreading the day that we can't do that anymore. Like to me, this is the defining moment of, like, if there's any reason why I'm still an Android user primarily, the number one reason is the way notifications are handled in Android. I can live with 100%. Almost everything else, but to me, having a single swipe from the top that gives me my quick settings and all my notifications is hallelujah. And I do not want to give that up ever. So
yeah, the iOS notification system doesn't make any sense to me.
Why is there two tiers?
I have a lot of friends that use iPhones, obviously, and family members and stuff like that. And one of the things I notice a lot is that my Android friends will get back to me fairly quickly with when I text them or message them or do whatever. And my iPhone friends are usually ones that lag behind. And at first you think to yourself like, oh, maybe they just don't like me, but it's not. It's because the notifications don't make any sense. They see the notification and they swipe it away and it's gone forever. Like there's no way to know. Like there's no system that keeps people on track. So it's like Android, like the notification just makes much more sense as far as like keeping you on top of what you need to keep on top of.
100%.
So splitting things like what they do with iOS, to me, is a step in the complete wrong direction. And earlier this year, in fact, at the beginning of 2025, Mishal Rahman, he found code inside Android 16, which then was unreleased, that suggested that Google was going to make the split notifications with your quick settings on one side and your notifications on the other. That suggested Google was going to make that a mandatory feature within Android. And you can imagine, it was an explosion. People just were like coming out of the woodwork being like, do not do this. You never do this. And to Google's credit, they didn't. Now, that doesn't mean they're never going to do it, but it does mean that they're thinking about it. And I'm hoping that the profound negative response to it was enough for Google to be like, okay, we should just not touch this. If Skins want to do it, if, Oxygen OS and Color OS and all these other places, they want to do it. Yeah, fine. Do whatever you want to do. But Android, the default should always be this. And yeah, I hope it, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what I would do if Pixels made that split. And you couldn't revert back. Like, I don't even know. Like, I
would just get frustrated for probably about 2 months, and then eventually I would get used to it and really hate it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
But the bottom line is, it's like, I don't like that Google. I don't feel like Google's on our side. Like, I think that even though Android users are super vocal and we know what we want and we like efficiency and optimizations and that's part of why we're all Android users. Like for me, every time I go back to using an iPhone, I'm like, yeah, this is really good. This is really good. And the apps in particular are freaking amazing. Comparatively experienced, like even like using social media. Like I keep an iPhone just for social media for like creating content because the quality is so much higher on the uploads and everything. And I know there's quality settings you can change on your Pixel and stuff, but like,
well, it's not even just that. It's actually the app itself. Like
that's what I'm saying.
if you're making an Instagram reel on a Pixel, you have 15 seconds to record your reel, and then you have to record another reel and make a bunch of chunks. On the iPhone, you just hit record and you just record your reel. And as long as you stay under the limit, I mean, it's like little things like that.
So that, but like then I try to actually use it to be productive, and I just lose my mind, like, you know, to like actually get my work done. So that's why I always keep an iPhone around, of course, because as a creator, I have to. Like the only way I can do TikTok and Instagram properly right now is, you know, even if I shoot with my Pixel, the video, you know, to be fair, iPhone video is incredible, and I try to shoot with my iPhone when I can.
No argument there. Yeah.
But every now and then I'll shoot a video with another device, and I'll put it on Photos, and I'll grab it from Photos on the iPhone, you know, because I'm like, no. Like when it comes to posting, the number of bugs you run into, you know, trying to edit an Instagram reel on an Android phone there's some bugs in iOS too, but man, like the number of time I've had out of sync audio and video for no reason, and it's stuck, and it would publish out of sync, and you know, it wasn't my earbuds. Like I'm just like, I just spent an hour or whatever it was on this stupid reel. F you, right? Like, so I don't know. The iPhone is delightful, I have to say. If you don't know anything else, like, I mean, and if you don't care about, you know, the thing is, we work for a living on phones. I mean, I do a lot of my work on phones. I am well known, since I fly so much between two countries and commute, like I'm well known to pull a folding phone and literally write an entire article on a folding phone on a 2-hour flight. Like, I don't even pull a laptop out anymore. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
If I have to, I can even do it on a bar phone. Like, I have written in Google Docs on a bar phone during a flight. No problem. It's not ideal, but I'll do it. But as soon as I have, you know, 7-8 inches of square real estate, I'm good. I can work. And so, of course, I want notifications right away, and I want to be able to action on them, and I want to be able to triage, and I want to be able to do all that stuff. And on an iPhone, every time I use an iPhone, I was just like, wait, when did this notification come in? Like, and what do I do now? I have to go to the app and like actually look at that. And
you know, this notification came in weird. I'm going to change the settings. Oh, that settings is not in the app. It's actually in the settings of it. And it's just chaos. Yeah. It's chaos.
So, you know, summarizing this Poco, I think the software on this is going to be a little challenging, because having used many Pocos and Redmi and Xiaomi phones lately with HyperOS, it's very frustrating to have that split notification forced on you. But at the same time, the hardware is exciting. The cameras hopefully hold up. And for the price, I think, you know, if you want a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 phone that isn't a gaming phone that has a crappy camera, this is probably a good solution, short of getting a OnePlus 15. Speaking of, let's talk about this video you made. It's kind of insane. What are your takeaways? Give me like, like the Cliff Notes version of your video, or tease the audience so they go see your video, because I'm kind of curious what your takeaways. What made you go, holy crap, I want this hardware on a Pixel experience?
So the thing I wanted to acknowledge with the OnePlus 15 is that it is a really good phone, and I know that it's getting a lot of negative press, and in fact, it's getting negative press from me and Android Authority.
Yeah, I did not give an editor's choice for the first time in a long time, because I felt like it was a step down from the 13. Only because it wasn't as equally well-rounded. Like, to me, it was the cameras not living up. Like, very, very good cameras. I'm happy. I can live with them. But compared to the 13, they just don't live up to that.
No, and the 13 is the better phone, like by far. Like, just if you're looking for the well-rounded experience.
With all the software updates and the polishing they've done, and carry on.
Yes, it's really, really good. So I wanted to acknowledge that the OnePlus 15 is really good, and there's a lot about it that I wish would come to Pixels, or not just even Pixels. Obviously, my channel is mostly focused on Pixel content, so that's what I get. But just Android in general. Like, I really feel like a lot of these features, and it comes down to the battery. You know, the battery being silicon carbon and massive, the fast charging, the build quality and the design of it all, I thought was really nice, especially the ceramic ceramic covering around the back and the rails. A lot of things about the OnePlus 15 are really, really good. And so the video starts off with me talking about those things, but then at the end, the last half is me saying all the things that I do not want Google or other OEMs to take from the OnePlus 15.
So do you have like a top 3 or top 5 of the things you want and the top 3 or top 5 of the things you don't want?
Sure, I can do a few. So the number one is battery. I mean, the silicon carbon battery inside the OnePlus 15 is nuts. It's absolutely insane.
And I've got a good dozen of phones here, so mostly mid-rangers from Chinese companies that have 7,000 plus milliamp hour batteries. And imagine that battery on a like 1080p display with a 7th gen or 6th gen or MediaTek Dimensity 7000 that lasts like even longer. It's insane. Like 3 days, no problem.
Yeah, no, that would be incredible. And then the charging, here in the United States, we have 80-watt charging wired with the OnePlus 15 and 50-watt wireless charging, assuming you have a proprietary charging system. But yeah, I mean, like 80-watt charging, that's twice as fast as almost every other phone that you can buy here in the United States, which is nuts. It's nuts. So you've got a battery that lasts forever, and then you've got super fast charging for when it does run out of battery, so you can just make sure you're topped up for the day. So those are two things I definitely want, and then the ceramic. I mean,
the micro arc oxidation finish.
Whatever nonsense.
By the way, that will scratch other displays. I found that out the hard way.
Yeah,
I accidentally slipped my OnePlus 15 in the same pocket as my Find X9 Pro. Just like one slide. I was like, oh, wrong pocket. Pulled it out, put it in the right pocket. Didn't think of it. Looked at the screen on my Oppo later on the day. I'm like, oh, smudges. Whoa, not smudges.
Scratches. Yeah,
like that's. I wish they'd given us a case on that phone, to be honest, because I don't generally put 2 phones in one pocket on purpose, and it was literally for 5 seconds. But
yeah, but that ceramic coating is incredible. It's such a great way to introduce a new way, a new design language for phones that sticks with what we have to have. Like obviously we could make the back of the phone all sorts of different things, but there's things you have to keep in mind. You have to remember wireless charging has to work on the back, and if it doesn't work on the back because it can't go through the material, then obviously that's not going to work. So there are a lot of limitations that you need to have. But OnePlus, found this genius way of making the phone feel completely unique and completely different from every other phone on the market, while still, making it stronger, more durable. It's just great, like flat out great.
So a couple of notes before you go to your negatives. Number one, this Poco phone has 100-watt charging. I just looked it up, and it's not just a proprietary. It is, but also PPS.
Oh, nice.
100-watt PPS. So you can just use a standard like 240-watt laptop charger or something that has PPS compatibility and get probably like close to 100. You probably won't get that for more than 10 minutes at the peak of the curve or whatever, but still. The other thing is about the micro arc oxidation. This is the second phone in the world with it. The first was the HTC One S.
Oh,
do you remember the HTC One S came out at the same time as a One X, which was like polycarb white? They were talking a decade and a half.
That's
almost
a long time
like
ago.
2012, I want to say, 2011, 2012. Anyway, they experimented with that back in the days when phones were partially covered in the back, like did not have glass in the back, so you didn't have to worry about wireless charging. And it was just as solid, but not quite as. I think this is really like the perfected version of that.
Right.
But the OnePlus 15 also, I think the other thing to keep in mind is, a lot of us, not me, but a lot of us like to use our phones naked, right? No case. And when I see like Nick Gray, for example, always has a Pixel like us, and he always uses it naked. And because of the shiny finish on the Pixel, it ends up really looking scuffed up, even though he's never dropped the phone. Like after 6 months, 3 months, I see him at trade shows and his phone looks like, whoa, scratched up on the sides. Not the back or the front much, but like, the edges. And this solves the problem. You're not going to get any scratches. You're going to scratch everything else you touch with that phone. It's great. That's what we want. Like every phone should be like that. Every phone should have a matte, ceramic, metal coated, whatever that, technology is, micro arc oxidation.
Yeah, and even if you don't look at durability, just the grip, like just being
I
able
know
to
it
hold
feels,
it,
or the way it
just feels
feels.
better.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh wow, like I can actually like, the phone doesn't feel like it's going to fly out of my hands every, whatever. And as a person who uses a Pixel, like you said at the top, I have the Pixel 10 Pro, which does have that that
Shiny.
glossy, shiny
Yeah.
thing, and it's just not as good. So yeah, so those are three things, my top three things that I wish Google would steal from the OnePlus 15.
Yeah.
However, there are a lot of things about the OnePlus 15 that are really bad, and the number one thing is the cameras, and I want to say with an asterisk there, because the cameras aren't bad.
Exactly.
And I talk about this on my social media all the time. It really irritates me when I criticize something. Like I'll say like, this phone isn't great because X isn't great or whatever. And people are immediately like, okay, X sucks. And it's like,
No.
like it's good. It's fine.
Levels
It's
of
just
gray,
not as,
guys.
yeah, it's just a little bit not, it's not as good as what it could be. And in the case of the OnePlus 15, the camera is so egregious because the OnePlus 13's cameras are so good.
Exactly.
It's like, why would you downgrade this? It's as a person who's worked in, I've worked for Android Authority for 7 years now, and I've reviewed a lot of phones. And as a person who used to be a OnePlus fanboy, like the idea, OnePlus has been dogged by these camera issues. The entire lifespan of OnePlus has always been, this is a great phone, cameras are garbage. Like that's been the number one way people have reviewed OnePlus phones forever.
Yeah.
And then the OnePlus 13, finally, everyone, Android Authority, everyone was just like, these cameras are incredible.
You did it.
This is it. You did it. You finally did it. And the OnePlus 13 is the only OnePlus phone ever to get a perfect 5 out of 5 score from Android Authority. And I saw lots of other perfect scores across the.
I had a 4.75 out of 5. I was very close.
Yeah. So the idea that OnePlus would see this and they'd be like, you know what we should do, guys? We should.
But you have to understand, it is not. That is not what's happening. And I want the audience to understand what's happening. Oppo is the problem. Pete Lau is the problem. I love Pete. He's a great guy. He's a great entrepreneur. He's founded OnePlus with Calpe, but he does not understand our market. He doesn't even understand the Western market in general. I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
Whereas Carl really did, which is why he eventually left to create Nothing. And look at what Nothing's doing. With their limited resources, although they're growing now and they're pretty big. I don't know if they're still a startup. It's kind of hard to tell, but they're making really decent hardware, but their software is exemplary, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that, I think, is, because Carl understands. He understands the West. He lived. He's Chinese, but he also lived and grew up in Sweden, right? Like he gets it, and he lives in London, right? Like he gets it. He gets the iPhone. Like that's why, we're going to talk to one of the news items is I'll talk with you about Android getting AirDrop support. We covered it last week, but I want you to get your thoughts on that because as a Pixel user, I have a magical anecdote to share with all of you. But Nothing has said that they're scrambling right now to try to get this working on Nothing phones as soon as possible, like Google did on Pixels. So he gets it. And Pete doesn't get it. And Pete really wants Oppo to be the flagship brand. It's like Xiaomi. Yeah, you have Xiaomi, you have Redmi in the middle, you have Poco at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
And in OnePlus Oppo land, you've got Oppo at the top, OnePlus in the middle, and Realme at the bottom. But Realme is now becoming the middle. It's happening. I said this last week on the podcast. The Realme GT8 Pro is a better phone than the OnePlus 15. It doesn't have the thermal issues. It throttles better, so you don't get like a fiery brick in your hand. The camera system is identical, except for the telephoto has a 200 megapixel sensor, and it is a better camera system. They also have that Ryko partnership, and you can tell the color science is a little more sophisticated. And I think it's completely artificial because those are the same main and ultra-wide sensors. There's no reason for it to be slightly better on those two sensors. On the tele, of course, you're going to get better results, bigger sensor, etc. It has a smaller battery. Sure, 7,000 instead of 7,300. It's got the same wired and wireless charging.
Yeah.
It's got the same wired and wireless charging. It's got the same processor. It's got the better display. It's got a quad HD display. None of that 165. We downgrade to 1.5K and it only runs on 10 games at 165. Who needs that? Buy a Red Magic 11 Pro if you need that. Like, I don't get that. Like, I don't get this Android performance angle they have going with OnePlus. Like it used to be like that, but that's why we kept saying that they were not being real flagships. Like they're going back, and I think this is peak. This is driven so hard by Oppo, and like the team at OnePlus is just probably throwing their arms up in the air, going, "There's nothing we can do here. We're just going to have to crank the marketing dial on the good things, like the micro arc oxidation finish, like the Snapdragon chip in there, the new industrial design, the 165 hertz, the battery, of course, the battery, yeah. But last year when I reviewed the OnePlus 13, I had just spent a good month with the Oppo Find X8 Pro, and dude, they were so close to each other. Like they were so close. The Oppo had a bit of an edge on the camera, but like we're talking minor thing. And of course it had the Dimensity, which is a great chip, but it wasn't quite as good in terms of like gaming performance perhaps. But like you could have put them side by side and picked one or the other and been just fine. And this year, I'm sorry, but the Oppo Find X9 Pro is a much better phone. Like it costs a lot more. Like granted, if you import, like it's like almost 1.5 times the price. Yeah, it's an Ultra phone, but they're also coming out with an Ultra soon, like in March, probably for MWC. So, like, why is it to me? This should be called the one. I know it's called OnePlus 15 and there's no Pro, but last year's 13 should have been called OnePlus 13 Pro because this is not a Pro phone. This is a OnePlus 15. Yes, it's called right, but it's a downgrade.
Yeah, and that's ultimately one of the things I talk about at the in the second half of this video is that idea of the downgrade of like, okay, what if Google did the same thing? Obviously I don't think Google's ever going to do that, but what if it did? What if it was like, we're going to take the Pro that we had this year, we're going to downgrade a bunch of stuff because we want to save money, or whatever reasoning they wanted to give, and obviously people would freak out. I would freak out. Like it'd be really upsetting. And so OnePlus just made a bunch of mistakes with the OnePlus 15. And talking about the processor, I know a lot of people listening to this podcast and a lot of people just out on the internet, in general, they love to poo-poo on the Tensor, chipsets inside the Pixels.
That's me too.
and that's fine. Like it's verifiable. In the video, I actually demonstrate if you are unzipping a file. I put a 13 gigabyte file, zipped it up, and then put it onto the OnePlus 15 and put it onto the Pixel 10 Pro. And I unzipped the file on both phones and timed how long it takes. And you can see in the video how long it takes. And I won't spoil it, but let's just say the OnePlus 15 wins handily. and that comes down to the processor. That's a real world representation of why the processor inside the OnePlus 15
because
better.
Everyone unzips. Sorry. No.
Well, but yeah,
but like we do. No, I've done it. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But but at the same time, like the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 in the OnePlus 15 is much more powerful. But how many people are A, going to use all that power, and B, have a solution for how much heat that power is going to generate? Tensor, on the other hand, it just chugs along. It's kind of like a tortoise and a hare kind of thing, where Tensor is the tortoise. It just kind of chugs along slowly at a rate that it will never meet the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, but it doesn't have a lot of the issues that come with it. And so that's another thing that I hope Google does not take from the OnePlus 15, is that this constant obsession of making the numbers go up. It's like, no, you don't really have to do that.
Before you give us your other two, I think for me, the thing that we need to throw in there is Dimensity, because it's kind of it's kind of like 99, 98, 97% of what you get on the Snapdragon, but without any of the thermal BS. And again, I don't think this is a Qualcomm issue. I think this is the manufacturers not having tuned their thermals yet, because as I said, Realme did it okay, right? And I don't know what this Poco is going to do, but Red Magic, of course, is going to push it to the edge. They have the liquid cooling, they have the fan. Of course, they're going to crank it to 11. But OnePlus, I think, cranked it to 11 too much. Like they should have, like Realme, respected the thermals a little bit. Because here's the reality. Like, yes, I have no problems that if we are like running some crazy benchmark, which nobody should be doing, right? Like I don't like benchmarks. I run them because hot hardware is came from PC hardware gaming, and so they run benchmarks. And my job there is to show what these benchmarks are. I personally do not. For me, I always write a big section saying this is the experience and this is what counts to me. But we have to admit that, yes, if the phone gets a little hot for a little while and, the battery like loses 20% in that 20-minute test and you get incredible results, I'm okay with that. But if the phone randomly reboots or randomly kills the app, or like you literally cannot pick up the phone because when you put a laser thermometer it says like 150 degrees Fahrenheit, that's a problem. And that's what we're running into. And we're not running into that on the Dimensity 9500. We're not seeing that on some Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 phones. So what gives?
Well, I think with the Dimensity, the thing that holds a lot of people back is that the people who are looking for that power, like the people who are like, I want the most powerful thing I can get, most of the time they want that power because of gaming and specifically console emulation.
Yes.
And with the Dimensity, it's just not as good. Like the Dimensity doesn't have the driver support that the Qualcomm Snapdragon does. So if you want the most powerful chip you can get that can do the best console emulation, you have to go with Snapdragon. So even though a typical benchmark is going to be very, very close with the Dimensity 9500, most people are going to be like, yeah, but the Snapdragon's got the driver support, so I might as well spend the money on that.
Yeah.
But for the average person who just wants a really powerful phone that works great, they can go with the Dimensity and they'll be super happy with it. And I think that just comes down to marketing. And I think MediaTek has a great opportunity in 2026 to really start pushing the narrative that like, hey, remember how we were kind of like the person, the thing that you saw in the background and we're like, yeah, keep trying MediaTek. MediaTek is now like,
they're really solid.
It's like 1-to-1 now. It's
and
like
I'm not
really,
just saying
like,
that because they're a regular sponsor of the show, to be clear.
Yeah,
I really believe that right now, for me, the phone of the moment is the Oppo Find X9 Pro, 100%.
Absolutely.
It is the most well-rounded, ultra almost level flagship that you can buy today. If you're looking for a phone that's going to be great until March, like when the Ultra comes out, until the next big volley of phones come out, I think you're good with that one. I mean, realistically, we know Samsung's not going to break any records with their phone. Like it's going to be same old, and that's fine. Poor Samsung users. Well, no, listen to what I just said. Poor Samsung users. I do not listen. If you're a Samsung user, I appreciate that you're a Samsung user. You have your reasons. I do not understand you. I do not. There are a million times better Android phones out there. Consistently. All the time. I live with them every day. I have zero issues. Can I buy them from a carrier store as a BOGO or whatever special deal, like trade in like a dead potato and get a foldy phone for like $100? No, but I do not care because I get all the phones to review for free. I know it's a bit weird. I understand. Like, I understand if you're getting a Samsung phone because you got a really good deal and it's through a carrier and blah, blah. You have all these restrictions that brought you there, but you're not getting anything remotely to the best phones on the market at all in Android land. You're getting a phone that's very good parity with the iPhone, but the iPhone has crap batteries. The iPhone has crap charging, all of that, right? Like,
well, I think the argument used to be that like Samsung users held on to their phones longer. So for them, like we as reviewers, we tend to
but our audience listening here right now, there are Samsung users, but they change their phone every 2 years.
Well, yeah, but a lot of Samsung users don't. Like with reviewers, we tend to review the phone compared to the previous year. But most people, we should be reviewing it against 2 to 3 years ago. The thing that has been Samsung's sort of crutch over the past maybe like 5-6 years is that you may say, oh, okay, they're kind of iterating every year, but then every other year, every 3 years, they do a big upgrade. And so therefore, you buy a phone, after 3 years of owning it, it's like a big shift for you.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore. If you were to buy the Galaxy S25 Ultra today, coming from the Galaxy S22 Ultra, it's almost the same phone.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Different.
Yeah.
And so that to me is what Samsung needs to fix. And earlier this year, if you've been following the leaks and stuff, there was a whole bunch of stuff that there was going to be a big shakeup. They were going to get rid of the Plus and they were going to use the Edge in place. Yeah. They were going to get rid of the vanilla model and make it a Pro model. They're going to do all these things. And then slowly that all changed, and now we're back to right where it started, where there's going to be a vanilla, a plus, and an ultra, and they're going to look the same. They're going to be the same, and it's just like,
and we're not going to get silicon carbon. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, we're not. We're definitely not. Definitely
no, absolutely not.
No.
The only chance we'll get silicon carbon on a Samsung phone the next 2 years will be on the Edge if they keep it, or the Folds.
Oh no, Edge is done. They killed the Edge. It's over.
I hope not. It's over. I really love the thin phones.
No, we've got the industry insider stuff from Korea.
Apple is going to continue though. They might not do it every year, but I think they're going to continue. And I think the Chinese, there's some exploration going on there. I think with silicon carbon, the Chinese could dominate that market. Like they could.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole thing. When I went to, I think you were there when I went to the Edge content capture for the Galaxy S25 Edge.
Yes.
And saw the phone and I was like, man, if this had a silicon carbon battery in it,
like
that's all it needs. Like that's
the crappy charging speed. Just give me that. Like just. That's it.
And it's just like, and I remember talking to some of the Samsung reps that they were there, and they always come around and they say like, what do you think? What are your first impressions or whatever? And my first impression was just like, this thing is not going to want, you're going to be trapped at a wall outlet the entire time because you didn't go silicon carbon. And they were like, yeah, well, silicon carbon's an unproven technology.
Well,
and I was like, well, then why launch the phone?
Scott, I got the same effing spiel from Google at Google I/O, and I almost got into a fight, not fight, like argument verbally with one of the execs there. Because I'm like, you're full of S. Because, this is not true. I have literally been using these silicon carbon phones for 3 years now, and I'm telling you, they're fine. And because you charge them less often, you're going to get the longevity out of them. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you have to remember a lot of the silicon carbon tech that we have came out of EV car tech. Like it's proven stuff. You can't mess up batteries on an EV. Like on a phone, it's one thing. If your phone dies after 3 years, you buy another one. You're spending like 45, 50, 100K on a car. Like, no, that's not going to fly. That battery's got to last 10 years, at least. And they do. And we have proof of that now. We have numbers. And more importantly, they can get recycled into power storage. And they do. And that's the magic of it. So, I don't buy the argument that both Sam and Apple has said the same thing too. And I'm like, they're just chicken. They just don't want to take any chances.
They don't want to take any chances. They don't want, they don't want the headline to be, Samsung phones batteries all fail.
Samsung still has PTSD from the Note 7, so that's
totally.
They need therapy, and so But look. Tell me quickly about the last two things that you would want.
I kind of already hit them. I hit the battery, the software, the chip, and all these other things. So
all right,
watch the video. So I would go to youtube.com/cscottbrown and check it out.
I will let you pitch all the stuff at the end anyway, so that people will recap. But go check it out, folks. So let's talk about more OnePlus. So people, I think, know this. You do. But maybe if you missed the last episode, folks, or whatever, the A series from OnePlus always ends up being the R series, right? This has been going on for a few years now. Sometimes the R series comes our way. Sometimes it's renamed a T series. Sometimes it goes to India and not the rest of the... Anyway, the Ace is the Chinese kind of mid-ranger from OnePlus. And so last year, the Ace 5 became the 13R. Predictable. Minor changes. I think front-facing camera is slightly different. Overall, it was pretty much the same. So when the A6 was announced, I was like, oh. But then the A6 came to an 8 Elite, not an 8 Elite Gen 5 or not an 8 Gen 5. And I was like, I don't think they're going to put an 8 Elite on a mid-range phone in the US. That doesn't make any sense. And then, magic, the A6T was announced or rumored. And sure enough, that has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 5, supposedly, because we don't know anything about it yet. And then I'm like, that could be a 15R. And sure enough, OnePlus this past week announced that they're, not only we knew they're doing a 15R because there was a 15R thing on the UK site for a few days. Now we know that the 15R is coming and on December 17th and has a Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. And we don't know anything else, but we know a few more rumors from the Ace 6T, and some of them are spicy, like 8,300 milliamp hour battery. Do you see that coming to North America? Like that seems insane to me.
No, I don't think that's that. Well, first, I don't think OnePlus would do that. I don't think it would undercut its own 15? Like, why would they make the 15R's battery better than the 15? Like, that
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
but we've seen that pattern on Chinese phones where the mid-ranger get a bigger battery.
But that's the Chinese. That's different. But they won't do that here. I don't think so. Plus, I think there might even be regulations in the United States that batteries just literally can't be that big. Well, if you split the cells,
you have to split the cells. And that's why the OnePlus says, split cells. So if you split the cells, I think the max is 5150 milliamps per cell. So you could go to 10K.
So I guess technically you could. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think 10K, Realme showed a prototype 10K phone that was only 8 millimeters thin. So it's coming. It's coming. In fact, we're going to talk about Honor. They have a phone that's 7.8 millimeter thin with an 8,000 milliamp hour battery.
That's just wild.
Yep. It's happening, guys. So expect the 15R to come on December 17th. That's what OnePlus is saying. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 and then the A6T, which is kind of a precursor to the 15R, should be coming to China on December 3rd. So we should be knowing more. But again, last year they did tune some of the features. So don't expect it to be a carbon copy. Like, I think design-wise it will be probably the same processor display, but I think we might see some changes on the camera specs and possibly the battery, because 83 is kind of insane. Not insane because it's not possible, but for our market, I don't see them doing that. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. But who knows? And then, as I mentioned, the Honor 500 series is out. It is a mid-ranger that copies, in terms of industrial design, the look and feel of the iPhone Air with that kind of thin plateau. Like, think, Nexus 6P, like the Huawei Nexus. Yeah. It had that weird visor thing before the Pixel had the visor, and this kind of follows the Air, which kind of, I think, copied the Pixel. Anyway, I love the looks of it. It looks really cool. And it's a mid-ranger, of course, mid-ranger meaning crazy specs because it's China. 8,000 milliamp hour battery is one thing we know. And it's 7.8 millimeters thick. That's pretty insane. Of course, it's a smaller phone, 6.5 inch, or small with quotes. Yeah, right. But like has 3 cameras in the back, and they're 50 megapixels. So it's it's pretty solid. One of them has a 200 megapixel main shooter. Anyway, I'll link to a GSM Arena. GSM Arena is kind of my go-to news source and database of all things, and they're awesome for that. So they really follow the Chinese phones closely. So I expect this Honor to come to the West, in Europe at least. The 100 series always comes at some point. So Honor doesn't send me devices, so I won't get it, but keep an ear out for that. But it goes with that conversation around the battery. Like, we're getting phones that are closer and closer to 8,000. Last year was the big 7,000 year. Like, we started getting the 7,000 phones last year from China on the mid-range. Now we're getting the 8,000 on the mid-range and the flagships on the 7,000. I think next year is going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if I have you on the show 2 years from now and 10,000 is standard on mid-range phones. I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. It's insane.
Yeah, no, it's coming. And I think the question then becomes like, how long do you really want your battery to last? For me, I would say I want my phone to last from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. no matter what. Like, no matter what I throw at it, no matter how many videos I shoot, no matter how much GPS navigation I do, I just want it to last that amount of time. I don't need a phone to last 2-3 days without a charge. Like, 99% of the time that I exist, I'm not going to need that. So, like, is there a limit? Like, is there a point where we're going to be like, battery problem in smartphones is solved?
I think it's a mindset thing. It's like EVs. When you drive a gas car, you think that when you're going to switch to an EV, like, oh my God, this whole long charging times and going to the charging station, and none of that happens. You plug in at home, most people, and you're done the next morning, right? It's kind of like a reverse of what we're about to talk about, where, right now you have an iPhone, you have a Samsung phone, you plug it in at night, in the morning, you're full. It's going to last you all day. You're good to go. The Chinese phones are kind of more like the gas cars it used to be, where you're like, you charge when you need it. You don't charge, like, when you have a 8,000 milliamp hour battery, I can only assume, but even with a 7,500, like on the Oppo Find X9 Pro, like, you plug it in for 10 minutes here and there, and in 10 minutes, you get like 30-40% back. So what you do is you set the limit to 80%, so your battery health is super amazing. And now you reduced your battery by, whatever percentage, and doesn't matter because you have so much reserve anyway. And so now you charge when you're in the shower. You charge when you're, making your coffee. You charge like it. You don't charge at night anymore. You don't even care. You just charge whenever you need to. And if you have to charge slowly, you can still do that. Like it's just liberating. It's magical, you know? And if you add a case with magnets in the back, then you have MagSafe supports even better. So I think this is the way we're going. And I think eventually people will wrap their head around it. When we get 10,000 milliamp hour mid-range phones, people are going to charge after 3 days. Like their smartwatches. They're not going to care.
I just think, I don't know, like for me, it's part of the habit now. Like, so I get into bed and, you know, I scroll on my phone for a little bit, check some things out, and then I snap my phone onto my little Pixel Snap stand. And yeah, there's a big clock that appears when it happens, and I can make it a photo library. I could do all sorts of things. And then I go to bed and it's like, and then I wake up and my phone's fully charged and I'm off for the day. So it's like,
and you can continue doing that. You know,
well, no, but I know you can't, but I think that's like, to me, that's what a lot of people are doing. And so, yeah, like, I don't know if I had a 10,000 milliamp hour battery in my phone, like I would still continue to do
you're going on a camping trip and you don't have to charge the whole weekend.
Yeah. I guess that's true.
And then, you know, in India, like my audience, a lot of folks are there. They don't have a very reliable power grid in some places. So, you know, maybe on their way home from work, they're at the train station, they plug into an outlet for 10 minutes while they're waiting for their train. And now they're back to 100% charge after, you know, getting 50% back on their phone in 10 minutes or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
And they're set for the next 2 or 3 days. And, you know, I think, you know, flexibility, it's more choice, right? Like I don't think a lot of North Americans and Westerners in general, Europeans, are going to change their charge overnight habits, but a lot of them, I see a lot of manufacturers even setting the limit to 80% by default on these phones. And then people having batteries that last and last. I'm not talking last days of use. I'm talking about longevity and reliability of the pack, like forever, because these things are slow charged only to 80%, and they never reach zero ever. Like at this point, you're talking about phones that can last those 8 years that we promise with software updates.
Yeah.
And that's the game changer part of it.
Right. I guess the only other thing that I would sort of be a devil's advocate for is what is that going to do for the cost of the phone? Are we going to have to sacrifice things to keep the phones at a certain price level because we're making these battery tech upgrades? Or are we going to see the same level of tech inside, but the price increase significantly?
I mean, to be honest, there's inflation on one hand, but looking at EV price battery trends, it's only going down. It's only going down. Silicon carbon batteries will be commonplace in 5 years on even Moto Gs at $200 or less. Like that's already happening, in fact, on some of the Chinese phones that I'm seeing that are budget phones. Silicon carbon is going to be everywhere, and it's going to be such a commodity that's actually going to be more expensive for you to use a regular lithium-ion battery or whatever the old tech is, you know? I think that's a non-issue. And every year, like Honor was the pioneer on silicon carbon, and every year you see their charge, like the number of charge cycles they can accommodate. And it started like half the charge cycles of a regular lithium ion, and now we're at double that. So because again, remember, China is batteries. Like people don't understand that the reason China has such a great EV industry, and well, of course the government, you know, but it's batteries. They started by making batteries, and then they won that field. They own it. They own it for the whole world. And so they're the battery champs. Anything that they make is going to be better than what we had before, and is going to be cheaper. It has to be. It's by definition. So the phones are going to get more expensive, yes, because of inflation and tariffs and whatever, especially in the US. Haha, I'm in Canada. Sometimes it's great. I get all the stuff cheaper. But the point I'm making is that, you know, inflation aside, I think the batteries are not going to be the part that makes our phones more expensive. Camera sensors are. Displays. Qualcomm chips. I'm sorry. I know that I'm not, you know, upset about Qualcomm. It's just the way it goes. Like these chips are insane. Look at what these chips are like. You know how Apple is considering putting an A18 in an affordable MacBook because the A18 is more performant than the M1.
Right.
This is a phone chip that performs better than a laptop chip from 5 years ago. Yeah, I think the same thing is happening. We're going to see ARM take over the world like it did for everything else in laptops. You know, it's already starting with the X Elite and all these chips from Qualcomm, and MediaTek has, you know, their Ultra chip, their Companion on the Chromebooks. And it's inevitable. So those chips are getting more expensive. So I don't know what the end result is of that, but I don't think you should worry about batteries in terms of price. That's not going to be the issue.
Yeah. Well, I'm all for it. Like I would love to have, like, in the video that we were talking about earlier, like I say, I want a silicon carbon battery in my Pixel. Like that's what I want. And so I'm hoping that it does come. But yeah, it's just it's going to be interesting to see, if that happens, when, how much is the phone going to cost? What is Google going to do? It's a big question, but I'm excited.
Me too. Huawei just unloaded a whole bunch of new phones in China, and one of them, the foldy one, the fold, like the think Galaxy Z Fold 7, is coming to the global markets like it did before. So they're really exciting. I'm going to put some links to the GSM Arena recap on those. The Mate series is kind of like their mainstream non-camera centric flagship, and that's out. There's a whole bunch of different phones. There's a Pro Max. Apparently China is really leaning in on the Pro Max. It wasn't, it started with Xiaomi. They went from 15 to 17 and jumped 16, and they went Pro Max on instead of Ultra. But there's an Ultra coming as well. So now the Ultras are becoming like the crazy camera phone, like Ultra, more camera than camera kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because again, the Oppo Find X9 Pro is kind of as ultra as it can get in terms of camera, but there's still an Ultra coming. And so the Pro Maxes are becoming like the below the Ultra, but above the Pro. I don't know. There's a whole bunch. And so, Xiaomi's doing it. This phone, the Poco, is an Ultra, right? But it's F8 Ultra. There is a Redmi identical, completely the same phone called the K90 that's only available in China, K90 Pro Max.
Nice.
It's the same phone. So Pro Max Ultra. Anyway, so yeah, there is a Pro Max version of the Mate 80 for the first time. And of course, there's a Pro version, and then there's a regular, and I think they'll make a Lite. And then there's the crazy folding phone. And of course, the big news here is that they have this new Kirin chip, which we don't know anything about because, that's how it is, China and Kirin, and like it's like their own. Kirin 9030 and 9030 Pro are those SoCs. Obviously, we don't know too much about them other than number of cores and stuff. So I don't really think Huawei and China's fabs are able to do anything better than maybe 5 nanometer, probably still 7. But honestly, I don't think it's basically like running a Pixel. You're going to have that mid-range processor experience on a super awesome flagship phone. If you could live with that, and if you live with not having Android, Google services and stuff, right? Because, well, that's the problem with Huawei phones. So
that's a hard sell.
Yeah, for me it is. But the hardware is always amazing. The camera is always great. So check out those links. And then, I have an anecdote I want to briefly share with you about last week's announcement of the AirDrop for Android. So, of course, since I'm a Pixel 10 Pro XL user, I immediately tried the AirDrop since I'm also a Mac user, and magic, it works like a charm on every phone. It works between my Apple iPhones as well and my Pixel. So magic, great. Kudos to Google. Doesn't look like Apple's doing anything about it. I don't think they will.
Oh no, I don't think they will either.
I think we're safe here. So nothing's lurking on it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to take a while for Samsung to do it because it's Samsung, but I think others will. But here's a big exciting thing. I was on an art crawl last weekend with my spouse in Vancouver, and we wanted to buy some cool stuff we saw. There's some designers with some neat new clothes, and Theo wanted to buy this sweater, and so they bought the sweater, and then they said, "Hey, can you take a picture of me with the sweater so I can use it on social later?" So I snapped a picture of my Pixel, and then the designer was like, "Oh, hey, that's a really nice photo." They looked over my shoulder, and I said, "Can you send it to me?" Yes, guess what happened? They're holding onto an iPhone, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's happening. AirDrop with a complete stranger, we're doing it. I AirDropped the photo to their iPhone from my Pixel 10 Pro XL. They had no clue what was going on, and it worked like I just said, hey, can you just enable the 10-minute anyone? Like, oh yeah, I'll do that since we're not friends. They didn't know. It was amazing. And
yeah.
That is the moments of delight that I live for as a tech journalist. That's the kind of stuff that's completely effortless and frictionless and just works.
Yeah.
So it's a game changer.
It's been a game changer for me, in particular because I'm actually doing a video right now for my solo channel that's comparing certain things about the iPhone 17 Pro to the Pixel 10 Pro. And while I've been making this, I've been obviously shooting a lot of stuff. I've been taking photos with both phones
Yeah.
and doing selfie things or whatever. And yeah, being able to just AirDrop things from one thing to the other like that has been unbelievable. Yeah, so I'm very excited about it, and I'm always just excited when Google does this kind of passive aggressive, screw you,
Yeah.
we're just going to do it without your approval thing. I love it. That's it. You just mentioned like, oh, that that frictionless experience is something that as a tech journalist makes me really excited. This kind of thing where Google just like throws, flips a table and is like, we're just going to do what we want. Like that's what I live for. I just get so excited by it.
Yeah, I mean RCS, they really did guilt
Oh yeah, they
Apple
did.
into
They
it,
won.
and thanks to the EU as well, right? Like, and let's
Yeah.
be real, like the USB-C with the EU thing as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think Apple's in a bit of a corner here because if they make any kind of action, the EU could really nail them on monopoly now, right?
No, yeah.
Especially since this is unlike, I'm not upset about this. Some people are, but Allison at The Verge wrote cracked in her headline about that. She meant like solved, right? Like cracked, you can be used for hacking, but it also can be used for solving a problem. They solved the problem, and they didn't do it without breaking any IP because of some existing Wi-Fi tech that was implemented in the phones.
Right.
So look, I think this is great, and I'm really excited Nothing wants to do it too, because it's going to be a while for the Chinese to do it, but the Chinese have an incentive to do it as well because first of all, they want to copy, but also they have a ton of iPhone users in China and a ton of Android. They probably have a pretty nice balance of those two, and they want those two to be able to communicate. So I wouldn't be surprised if Xiaomi or Oppo is the first to do that.
That's what drives me nuts about Apple's walled garden approach in general is that the iPhone users want this too. Even in your anecdote you just shared with the art walk, like that person that the designer that you talked to, like they wanted that photo and they wanted an easy way to get it from you. And Apple's policy is like, well, guess what? Miriam doesn't have an iPhone, so therefore you can't do it. And that would have made that designer, that would have been like, oh, that sucks. Like, why is that? And so what I don't understand is that like when Google did this AirDrop thing, I'm sure Apple was like, oh my God, like what, this is insane, whatever. But it's like, why don't your customers want this? Just like your customers want RCS. Maybe they don't want RCS specifically, but they want a way to directly communicate with Android users and send them high quality images and videos and share GPS locations and all the things that RCS provides. And Apple like fights it. And it just drives me crazy. As a person who doesn't use an iPhone, it boggles my mind that I meet iPhone users and they're like, oh yeah, it's like a, I don't know, it's like a fetish thing. It's like, oh yeah, I like being punished. It's like I like being told that I can't do something.
Tim
like,
Cook summed it best when he said, buy your mom an iPhone or whatever. Buy your mom an iPhone, right? Because that was like that's their mentality, and it's so stupid. It does suck. And
it's so short-sighted.
It really is. Like anyway, the point is with RCS we're good now, and but the thing is, if I hadn't had AirDrop on my Pixel for this art crawl, I would have probably RCS'd him the image, but then I'm not sure if he's running a new enough iPhone. If he has iPhone 17, he doesn't have RCS. So then I'm like, this solves it, because I have a feeling that, right now from people I've tested, I haven't really followed this. You might have, but it looks like for me, it's working with I'm not on Tahoe. I'm on Sequoia on all my Macs, and it's working fine on that.
Yeah, no.
And it's working fine on iOS 18 and iOS 26 because I got both iPhones with both OSs. So it doesn't look like you need to have the latest AirDrop for this.
No.
So I don't even know if this guy was like, I don't know how old his phone was. He might have been running iOS 16 for all I know. You know what I'm saying? Or 17. And RCS wouldn't have helped us in any way. And then we have to exchange phone numbers, and that's like a big privacy thing. No, you don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, no, the AirDrop is the way to go. And that's how it should be. It should literally be that easy for everybody. And like Apple simultaneously only wants to use its protocols and rejects using other people's protocols. And that simultaneous like shutting the walls between users, it just makes no sense. And I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, oh, we want to make your experience iPhone to iPhone great. so that you constantly think to yourself, I can't ever get rid of my iPhone. Like
Right.
that's what it wants. And that is a strategy, but it's a short-sighted strategy that's going to end up hurting Apple in the long run, because you don't keep users loyal by making them feel like they're in jail. Like that's not how you create loyalty. You create loyalty by giving a better experience every single time. And Apple just, for whatever reason, just doesn't understand that. It drives me nuts.
I think there are gray levels of walled gardens you should have here. There are some things you can totally wall. Like, I think there are something it doesn't matter. But there are some things like this, as soon as it becomes exchanging information with other people in the outside universe of Apple, is it where it becomes really critical, right?
Yeah, no, like if you want to have proprietary things, like
in
fine,
the same way as like, what is it? Pages, which is the word processor for Apple, does write Microsoft Docs. Like it does, and it has to. And that's my point, that, you know, that's where you don't want the walled garden to exist, because of course that's mission critical stuff. But at the same time, you know, like, you know, the fact that we're running Mac OS versus, you know, running Windows, that doesn't make any difference. Like to me, like that, you know, it's a different OS and it's fine. At the core, they can be completely different in their own little silos. But it's once you start, you know, exchanging info, and this is where, you know, I feel, as you said, they've put their audience in jail, you know, and it's not cool, right? And
I mean, just
we feel it too as Android users. We're like, oh man, not again.
Yeah,
you know,
right?
Like,
yeah, no, and like, you know, I think that Android users tend to think that Apple does it because they hate Android users or something. And that's not true. It's just they're trying to protect their brand. They're trying to make it so that people don't want to leave.
They're trying to, let's be real, they're trying to lock people in. And you know, I kind of feel like Google's doing a bit of that too with the Pixel ecosystem lately, you know? Like,
well, but crucially, Google's not doing it for the communication aspect, which you pointed out. They're not, sure, you're going to get a bunch of stuff on Pixels that you can't get on other phones, but that's just part of the, you know, that's just how it is.
And
like,
eventually it comes to Android anyway. You know, it does trickle down at least.
But Google's not coming in and being like, guess what? You can only communicate in these styles with other Pixel users, because that would be terrible. Like no one would like that. Even me, I am, you know, a huge Pixel fan. I have a video of a YouTube channel dedicated to talking about Pixels. Even I would make a video the next day about how this is the worst decision Google's ever made, and it makes me think I shouldn't have a Pixel anymore. But Google would never do that, because that's not what Google wants to do. Google doesn't want to make you feel trapped.
I think the big difference is that Google started out as a search engine and a web-based ecosystem. And so they grew from there into mobile. Whereas I kind of feel like, you know, Apple came from hardware and made software to support that hardware. And that software is really impressive. The Mac was the first, then the iPhone. And so they're looking at, even in the early days of iPhone, the iPhone and Mac weren't really good friends. You had to like run iTunes and plug your phone in and sync. It was really cumbersome. Right?
The original iPhone didn't support PDFs or copy and paste. Just to give people perspective.
And video
on
recording
things.
didn't exist, and MMS didn't exist. I mean, the point I'm making is that, you know, Google was always about interoperation because they're built on the web. They're built on HTML and, you know, eventually CCS and stuff. So yeah, that's a big difference. Listen, I think this is a good time to wrap up. Cool. Do you want to tell folks where they can find all your stuff? Because obviously there's not just YouTube, there's your social, and that, you know, if you have other YouTube channels that I'm not aware of, that'd be great.
So you can watch me regularly on the Android Authority channel on YouTube, which is just youtube.com/Android Authority. But I have my new solo channel that launched in July, which is at C. Scott Brown, which is, you know, going really well, and I'm really excited about it. You can come and find me there. You can find me on Threads also at C. Scott Brown. And I also have a new Discord that is specifically for people coming to hang out and talk. We talk mostly about Pixel stuff, but we talk about general tech there. And I'm about to break 100 members there, which is really cool because I just launched a couple of weeks ago. So come and stop by and hang out with me there on my Discord or my social, or just visit my YouTube channel.
Fantastic. And do you have a TikTok and an Instagram people should follow as well?
I do have a TikTok and an Instagram. They are also at C. Scott Brown. I do not have X though. I'm not on X, so don't bother trying to find me there. Yeah.
Folks, you know where to find me. I'm at Tanker, like the comic book character. Drop all the vowels on all platforms except TikTok, where you add 6'9", which is my year of birth. Don't make fun. So TNKGRL, pretty much everywhere. TNKGRL 6'9" on TikTok. So the TNKGRL is on Insta, on Threads, and Blue Sky. That's where I'm mostly active. I still have my X account primarily because I still get a lot of engagement somehow, even though I don't participate at all. I just post my podcast every week, and that's all I do there. But people talk to me. So, hey, if you want to talk to me on X, that's totally okay. But you should move to another platform.
Yes,
because
please.
you have a conscience and you're a human that cares about
dead.
Other humans.
Let's leave it behind.
That's my little lecture for the day. Look, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. So if it's your first time here because you followed Scott here, please subscribe. Tell your friends. That'd be awesome. If your app lets you rate or review the show, please rate or review the show. And that helps for discovery and stuff like that. YouTube.com/mobiletechpodcast is my channel. It's not even remotely as good as Scott's, but I have a few unboxings, hands-on reviews, some snippets of the podcast end up getting grabbed out of there generally after a week or two because my Patreons get the whole show in advance. So check out the YouTube channel. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And then finally, if you want to support me, as I mentioned earlier in the show, there is a Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. That's again my handle, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And you can support me there with a $5 a month subscription. You get podcast a day in advance every week with video. Sometimes you go overtime and I get extra content. Sometimes there's bloopers and fun stuff. So, consider helping me out if you can on Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Scott, thanks so much for being my guest. I appreciate you being on the show again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Absolutely, folks. We will have Scott on the show again in the future, and we will have a podcast next week. So please stay tuned for that. And until then, cheers, everybody.